Today we're talking with Bret Iwan about the audition that changed his life,
The subject line of the email said, "Do you want to be the voice of Mickey Mouse?"
carrying one of Disney's biggest legacies,
I would love to be able to work on some kind of feature project or something where we explored Mickey's different tonalities and emotions and his depth.
and why Mickey Mouse still means so much to so many people.
It makes you believe that dreams can come true, that magic is real, and that, anything is possible.
Welcome to the Enchanted Ears podcast.
Where we discuss anything and everything Disney.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Joe, and on today's episode, we are very excited to be joined by special guest Bret Iwan, the voice of Mickey Mouse, the artist who can also draw Mickey Mouse, clothing, fashion designer, anything with Mickey. This guy's done it.
Like he has like
Trains, yes.
Yeah, he is the jack of all trades. Like I don't know what Bret can't do. Like it is absolutely astounding.
Yeah, we found out a lot in this interview of things he can do, and you're right, I don't think there was anything we came up against that he was like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, but like also incredibly humble, so kind. Like again, like a lot of people that we talk to that work for Disney are like extraordinarily kind, and he is no different. But like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It is one of my favorite probably interviews that we've done in a really long time.
Yeah, we are very excited for you all to hear it. Just a second. I do want to mention our Best of the Parks bracket. Voting ends today. We're in the finals, so if you've not voted or if you want to vote again, head to our website, enchantedears.com/400 to cast your vote. Voting ends today. Today's the finals. Next week, on our 400th episode, we will break down the entire bracket. There has been some interesting voting that has happened up until this point. So I am excited to see kind of where it all shakes out, but we'll get all into that next week. Also do want to mention we are still collecting donations for Give Kids the World Village. We're going to be doing a whatnot, which is kind of like QVC, I feel like, for the TikTok generation. But we got a lot of like Funkos and Loungeflies and a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be raffling off. So check our Instagram, Enchanted Ears Podcast, for all the details. But that'll be coming up this Friday. All right, with all that said, let's get into the interview with Bret. We are very excited for our next guest. He is probably best recognized for his voice, having been heard in TV shows, video games, and theme parks since 2009 as the official voice of Mickey Mouse. But he's also an incredible artist and designer, being one of the few people to both draw and voice Mickey. We are delighted to be joined today by Bret Iwan. Bret, welcome to the show.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Or should I say,
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Perfect.
and we're done.
Yes.
Let me tell you the street cred that I got today at work as a teacher. I'm like, yeah, I have to go home early. I gotta like interview Mickey Mouse, and they're like, what? I said it to one of my coworkers, and he didn't even no look on his face, like, oh, she's just saying something psycho again.
Sometimes there's like a definite disconnect where, even when I'm meeting people, they're like, well, what? Like, oh yeah, this is what I do. What? Like, and the thing I love all the time is people go, does Mickey talk? I'm like, then you realize you're talking to the wrong people. You're
right,
like, okay,
right.
Never mind.
Yes. Do you ever just like not tell them what you do and then pull out the impression, and they're like, oh my God, you're so good at this. You should actually like do some voiceover work.
I mean, I think I probably used to do that a little bit more in the early days. But ironically, I found myself in some professional settings lately, like doing some appearances where people are supposed to know what my role is with the company. And I recently had someone come up and I think I just gave them like a simple "oh boy," and they go, "That's really good." Well, thank you.
It would almost be funnier if they were like, something's off about that. Like
I have gotten that too. A lot of convention appearances. I can't think of a specific moment, but I know there's been times where like, yeah, my uncle can do that too. My dad does it. My dad does it better. I'm like, great. Well,
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That's perfect.
Well, want to start a little bit before you started voicing Mickey. So kind of like growing up, were you always a fan of Disney? Like, did you have a love of Disney? Did you go to the parks a lot as a kid?
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up kind of in a Disney household. I grew up on Disney movies, on Disney cartoons. I remember being at an early age being very fascinated with Walt Disney specifically. I always tell the story that I was kind of the nerdy kid. I wasn't ever athletic. I wasn't really into sports. So during recess, I learned that you could go to the library and help the librarian shelve books, which back then, learning the Dewey Decimal System, I felt so important. But why I did it is because after you shelved books, then she had some drawing materials on the table, so you could sit and draw, and a couple of my friends did that. But it also gave me the chance to go spend a lot of time with this one particular book, which was a biography on Walt Disney. It was like an illustrated biography on Walt Disney. And I loved that book, and I loved reading it, and I was just so fascinated by his story. It's this guy who essentially came from very little or nothing and created this magical brand and these characters that we all know and love. And so I just remember very early on being fascinated by Walt. I tried to absorb all I could in terms of watching the classic Disneyland TV shows. My dad and I would watch all the Mickey Mouse cartoons, and I often say that that's probably where I learned to draw, actually, because we would watch the cartoons and pause them and draw the characters together. And then, of course, growing up in Southern California, Disneyland is, about 30 miles away from where I grew up, and we'd usually go maybe once a year. This is before annual passes. It wasn't a thing that you just went and hung out there every day. But when we'd have family come into town visiting from Ireland, or maybe just a lucky summer day, we would get down there. So I spent a good chunk of my childhood surrounded by Disney, and then of course having magical moments at Disneyland. So I don't remember a time when I wasn't a fan. That's the easier answer.
Awesome. Do you have a copy of that book now that you had at the library?
I don't, and I wish I could figure out which one it was. Honestly, I don't remember. I do. When I first auditioned for this role back in 2009, I was living in Kansas City, and so I had to make the move from Kansas City back home to the Los Angeles area. And one of my friends gave me a going away gift, which is a framed image of Walt Disney shaking Mickey, as an illustration of Walt Disney shaking Mickey's hand. And it's kind of like unmistakable because it's this black and white image, but the coloring, like Mickey's shorts and I think like maybe Walt's sweater or whatever he's wearing, are this like green, this very specific like vintage green. I've since found out through my friend Becky Klein, the director of the Walt Disney Archives, what that illustration is from, but that's not the book that I remember as a kid. So I know there's some other illustrated version of this story that I should probably do some research and find out. Yeah,
I'm like, is this your white whale?
It might be now. I never thought of it, but thank you.
Oh, no, sorry. Did I start something?
I have something to live for now. Thank you.
So when you were younger and kind of that fascination with Walt, like, was it always a goal of yours to do something with the Disney company, or like did you kind of just happen to stumble upon this?
Yeah, like what was your original career path?
Yeah.
It's a great question, and I think the ultimate dream, yes, was to work for Disney. Again, I mentioned art, and I just grew up drawing all the time, and I was fascinated by hand-drawn animation in particular. So that was my career path. I wanted to be a traditional animator. I took animation classes. I grew up here in Pasadena, where I ironically live now, but I took summer classes at this wonderful art center we have called the Armory Center for the Arts in town, and it was an animation class. And so I spent basically, late grade school through junior high taking these summer courses, which introduced me to a lot of techniques and then also some professionals. And it just kind of kept encouraging this love of animation and this goal of animation. And then I eventually, after high school, chose Ringling College of Art and Design because as an illustration major, which is what I went into, you had the opportunity to intern with Walt Disney feature animation is what they called it back then. So that was my goal. I wrote, I think, I always forget exactly what age I was. I think I was 11 or 12, and I wrote a letter to Walt Disney Animation Studios asking if they could hire me to sharpen pencils and serve animators coffee.
Oh my gosh.
I just thought, like, what the heck? I'll take a chance.
Yeah.
Probably realistically not expecting a response, but I did get a response.
Wow.
Somebody wrote me a letter, and it was a very lengthy letter, just encouraging my dreams, applauding me for being inquisitive. And then he sent me a list of all the different books I should read. I remember specifically he encouraged me to draw every day. And then he suggested some schools to go to. So it really became this roadmap I had, this tangible roadmap to make this dream come true. Unfortunately, and I don't know. I mean, who knows if that would have happened. I feel like I was on a good track for it. We had some visiting animators come down, and they were really encouraged by what they saw. But traditional animation kind of, died down during that time that I was in school, because this is post Pixar, Toy Story era, and computer animation is really the thing. So they shut down the Florida studios specifically, and it just weren't the opportunities for traditional animation. So I kind of pivoted. I went the direction of more theme design, thinking of Imagineering or something like Universal was kind of on my radar. And I did have an opportunity to have an unpaid internship with Walt Disney Imagineering that I probably would have taken had I not been offered a full-time job with Hallmark greeting cards, which is where I ended up. So it was unpaid internship with Disney or salaried full-time position with benefits.
Right.
And I took the more responsible route.
So were you designing the cards? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, so as an illustrator, I got hired in their illustration department, and I was painting. I always say I was painting and drawing fuzzy bunnies and fuzzy little cute mice and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, I did have a brief stint working on the licensing team, so I guess I worked on some Disney and some Mickey cards.
Okay.
I helped concept some keepsake ornaments, some Disney-related keepsake ornaments. So yeah, it was a great place. But that's where I got my start. So ultimate dream was always Disney. Life just took me on a little detour before I got here to where I am.
Wow.
I'm so fascinated by the Hallmark card thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I guess you never really think about the people that make things like that happen, I think is what it kind of boils down to. At least if you're not like a super like questioning individual. I feel like there's some people out there that just like question everything. And
probably, I mean, I think it's probably more so to do with, brands like Hallmark that are so, iconic in our existence, American existence. It's like, or even worldwide, I guess you could argue with Hallmark. It's like, oh yeah, Hallmark cards, like, yeah, okay. You don't think, and you kind of naively assume that it's, oh, well, I'm sure it's an easy process. When I started at Hallmark, actually, I joined an illustration studio that had, I think, around 85 artists, and that was just illustration. So just artists who were drawing and painting artwork for cards or product. But then there was a separate writing team, a writing department. There was an entire graphic design team. There was a photography team, a hand lettering team. So it was a big, unfortunately, it's kind of been whittled down over the years as that business has shifted and changed. But when I was very fortunate to start when I did, which was maybe not, it wasn't the heyday. I heard about the heyday and I heard how amazing it was, and they'd send artists to Rome to study and be inspired, and but nonetheless, it was still an amazing experience for me. I got to work on so many different cards. You never knew what season of the year it truly was, because you're working on Christmas cards in July and Halloween in the middle of spring. And I remember I think I was going out for lunch with a coworker for my birthday, which falls in September. And we walked into this restaurant, and they had already started decorating for fall with like pumpkins and orange leaves and stuff. And it was this mind trip where I was like, why aren't they, like, why is Thanksgiving decorations still up? It's Christmas time, because I was in the midst of like painting nativity scenes. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, what's happening? It was a really cool experience. I loved my time there. So yeah.
So are you a person that like is a card giver? Because I feel like there are two types of people. There are card givers and there are not card givers.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Remember like the whole e-card thing? I never understood that. I know there's probably people who still do it, but I'm like, it's not the same. I get so many emails. The last thing I need is a email with a link to click on, which I'm already suspect of. I'm like, Yes, the long answer. I am a card giver. I love giving cards. My best friend actually has her own greeting card stationery business called Paper Parasol Press, and so she does beautiful, one-of-a-kind designs and letterpress designs that, So now I support her. But I'm still a Hallmark loyalist. When someone just last week gave me a Hallmark card, and I flipped it over and saw that gold crown on the envelope, and I said, "Oh, they care enough to send the very best." When I get something that's not like a bespoke brand, and it's another, I won't name them, but another corporate, I kind of judge. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
and I know where you bought this too. I'm like, you were in CVS. Oh, you got this at Target. I actually just right here have my gold crown sitting on my desk.
Oh wow,
Oh,
nice.
Which is actually a cool story. So these were ashtrays that Hallmark made for their corporate headquarters. Because when they built their corporate headquarters, it was the '60s and everyone smoked, and so they had these, but they had gone the way of history. Well, while I was working there, somebody discovered a box in the back storage closet somewhere that had all of these that hadn't been used. So a few of us got them. And then the cool connection is when, I don't know if you've had the chance to tour Walt's office at the Disney Studio Lot, which is an opportunity you can get through D23. If you go in Walt's office, you will see one of these sitting behind his desk. Uh, it has a little engraving from J.C. Hall, who is the founder of Hallmark. But the two of them, being Kansas City guys and Kansas City entrepreneurs and businessmen, knew each other. They were friendly, and so J.C. Hall gifted one of those gold crown ashtrays to Walt. So I love
That's
that.
awesome.
They would be
Great
perfect.
connection.
Like
Yeah.
they have like a perfect little place to hold it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So how did you transition then into voiceover work?
So yeah, that was an interesting transition and one that I was not anticipating. So I'm working at Hallmark. I get an email out of the blue from a friend of mine who is a Pixar animator. We went to school together. Jamie Rowe. She's been a character animator at Pixar for, oh my gosh, 20, almost 25 years now. It's kind of hard to believe. But she forwarded me this email, and the subject line of the email said, "Do you want to be the voice of Mickey Mouse?" And so
What
I
an
thought,
email.
yeah, I was like, what is this? What is this joke that my friends are playing on me? And I proceeded to read the email, and I quickly realized it was legit. It was coming from the department at Disney called Disney Character Voices. They explained that although Wayne Allwine was the voice of Mickey Mouse and had been at that point for 32 years, he was having some health difficulties, which made it hard to meet the demand that Mickey required. And so they were hoping to find someone who could understudy with Wayne, with the understanding that they'd eventually take over the role. So the reason my friend got this email is it was an internal email. They thought, well, let's just see, who's within the company, because
Okay.
kind of historically, the voice of Mickey, not intentionally, but just happened to come up through the ranks of the company. So you've got Walt Disney, the first voice. Obviously, we understand that. Jimmy McDonald was the second voice, and as Jimmy McDonald tells, Walt popped into his office one day and said, "Can you do Mickey's voice?" And Jimmy said, "Gee, I think so." And Walt said, "Well, all right, from now on, call Jimmy. I'm too busy." So Jimmy McDonald took up the mantle of voicing Mickey. And then Wayne Allwine was actually an apprentice of Jimmy McDonald's, working in the sound effects department at the studio. He was a sound engineer and musician of his own right, and had a career starting all the way back in the mailroom at the Disney Studios. So he had been with the company for a while, but he actually got the opportunity to audition because somebody, an actor who was scheduled to come in for auditions, didn't show up. And so they called down to Jimmy McDonald's office and said, "Hey, send up that kid that works with Jimmy." So Wayne went in and took a chance auditioning, and from 1977 all the way till 2009 had been voicing Mickey. So anyway, that's some backstory as to why they were looking internally. From my understanding, they had done a casting call out in the general voiceover community, hadn't quite found what they were looking for. I know there was a lot of hesitancy on the part of other actors who didn't want to step on Wayne's toes, because you will find that there a lot of time, it's a small, voice acting is a somewhat small community, so a lot of the big actors know each other. So I think respectfully they didn't want to step on Wayne's toes, but nonetheless, I get this email. They're looking at this open casting call essentially, and it explains that you call this number and leave your Mickey impression, which was supposed to be based on what they had provided you, which was you know, a paragraph of lines and the audio to support it. So you had something to listen to. So it's Walt's lines from Brave Little Tailor.
I killed 7 with 1 blow.
There's Society Dog Show. Like,
He's a mighty fine dog, sir, and he's smart too.
and then all the way to Wayne's Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Like,
Hi, everybody, it's me, Mickey Mouse. Want to come inside my clubhouse? Well, all right.
so you submitted your voice match, and then you waited. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I had been an actor in high school. I joke now that like everyone's an actor to some extent, but I'd never planned or pursued it professionally at this point. So this was my first foray going like, can you do this? I guess we'll find out. So I called in, submitted my audition. A few weeks went by, and then I got a response. I got a phone call, and they said, hey, it's Disney Character Voices. We're gathering our top 10 people to come in for a callback audition. We'd love you to be a part of it. What part of the company do you work for? And I had to explain, like, actually, I don't, and I'm not even in LA. I'm in Kansas City, and I could hear them go, oh, okay. I'll call you back. So I thought, oh, I've blown it. I should have just lied and said, I just like flew myself out. But they did get back to me and they said, look, we understand you're not here, but we'd still love you to be a part of it. If you're willing to get yourself out here, then we'd love for you to, audition in person. So of course I didn't hesitate. I booked a flight, flew myself out, did the in-person audition. First time maybe the second time actually, but like first time professionally in front of a microphone in a sound booth. I felt totally out of place. I was so nervous. I mean, I'm sure I was just like beet red and sweating, and did a 45-minute audition that felt like 30 seconds. And then it was more waiting and more waiting. And then one day I saw the news that Wayne Allwine had actually passed away. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, the game has changed. Like, this is no longer an understudy position. Like, they're going to be in the need for someone to take over. And I anticipated that was going to not be an easy process and probably take a while, but eventually I did get another call, and they said, I'm sure you've heard the news. Mickey still has work to do, and we'd love for you to start not trying out, but we'd love to have you come and do a few projects on a trial basis. We're not promising anything, but let's get you in the booth on real stuff and see how you do. So I flew back out to LA. I did a session. I think it was a Disney on Ice show or something for Animal Kingdom. Went back to Kansas City. And a couple of weeks went by, I got another call. We got something else for you. Flew myself back out. And it was after that trip, after that session ended, they sat me down and they said, we really like what you've been doing, and we'd like you to be the guy. If you're interested, we'd like you to be the guy. Under the understanding that I needed to relocate, I needed to move, and so I remember like jokingly saying like, let me think, I'd like to think about it. And they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, no, of course, like, yes, like, where do I sign? And I learned a lot at that point because they're like, there's no contract. This is gig by gig. And, but that's literally how I jokingly say I tripped and fell into it, but probably more accurate, it found me truly. I wasn't out there looking for it. I wasn't Googling, how do I become the voice of Mickey Mouse? It was something I did. I was very aware of Wayne and his history with the character. I was very aware of Mickey's voice, and it was just something I emulated and did when I was listening to the Fantasmic soundtrack or listening to different Disney records or watching The Prince and the Pauper or Runaway Brain, because I admired that character so much. And when I realized at a young age my voice sit in a similar register in terms of that falsetto, it just became an impression I did for friends. I thought, it kind of made them laugh. It was something that, I don't know if it made me look cool, but it was something that was memorable, right?
Yeah. I was going to ask that, like, if you knew you could do, like if you had a Mickey Mouse voice already.
Trick, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a party trick. I mean, I would never assume to say that it was, at this point, with the experience I've had and knowing what I'm capable of now versus back then, I would hesitate to say it was good, but there was an awareness there. There was something there that got me here.
Right.
And I do think that, in particular, when it comes to these characters, what makes them unique and it's not always agreed upon, I'll say, like on a corporate level, but in my heart, I truly believe that these characters should never be about an actor. It should never be about a celebrity, because as Wayne and Rusey once said so eloquently, they weren't celebrities, Mickey and Minnie were celebrities. And I know Bill feels this way, I know Tony feels this way, I know Caitlin feels this way. You know, we are so lucky to be a part of these characters' stories. And I think it's almost more important that you know the history and you know these characters. You know to what extent they can bend and flex, and what the like breaking point is, and when you take them too far. And I think, you know, the way the world has changed since I started, and how heavily reliant we are on social media, and your opportunities come with your likes and your views and all of that, it definitely has changed the landscape. And so I know that there's a lot of casting that happens in entertainment in general, but a lot of times in voiceover too. It's like, well, that person, I'm not saying that they're not a good actor, but there's a lot of decisions that are made based on your reach or your following. And with these characters, I will go to my grave saying that, like, I don't, you know, it should never be about that. It should really be about the heart of the character and the intent. And so, yeah, I feel so fortunate that I get to do it. But at the end of the day, I have no authority, you know. It's like I just get to enjoy it as long as the opportunity continues to present itself.
Yeah, that was one thing. You mentioned it too, and when we talked with Bill Farmer, he mentioned it too, that it's a gig by gig basis. Like, and that's what, didn't realize that. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, what's the thought process on that? Like, do you kind of have an idea, like, hey, I have a few gigs, like I'm good for the next year? Or is like they're always in the back of your mind, like, hey, this could go away? Like, I mean, it's not that Disney recast these characters a lot, as you mentioned.
Right.
You know, the other people have done it for decades.
You're the fourth, right?
Yeah.
Did I do my counting? Yeah.
I'm the fourth person to be cast in the role. You know, the past few years I found myself explaining to people by saying it's a hustle. You know, like it's just like, truly, whether you're an actor or a freelance artist of any kind, or a freelance creative, and unfortunately, I get to play in two of those sandboxes as a freelancer. You know, it's a constant hustle. You're always looking for the next. Nothing is guaranteed, and so you're always looking for the next opportunity or the next creative outlet. You know, it doesn't even always have to be about the monetary gain or the recognition, but, you know, what's going to keep your creative juices flowing. And so specifically when it comes to the voiceover jobs, you know, if we have a TV series, like, for instance, we're working on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse right now, season 3 of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse Plus. And so I know that we've got about half a season left of episodes to do on that. So that's a pretty steady gig, you know, usually about once a week for the next several months. But truly, when it comes to all the other stuff, if you think about, you know, the cruise ship shows, or the parades, or the castle shows, or the toys, or video games, or all these other ancillary product, you never really know. Like, the team might say, oh, hey, keep this on your radar. We might have something for you coming in June. But you're not really all that privy to it. So you're just kind of waiting and hoping that your phone goes ding and your agent says, hey, hold next Thursday, we've got a gig for you. So again, I do feel like I'm fortunate in the sense that, you know, I have a design business, and I've maintained like a really healthy artistic career as well. So I'm not, you know, just waiting for the call to go into the booth. I'm also looking for the opportunities to design merchandise, or design products, or create art series, or, you know, whatever the case may be. It is a hustle, and it can be nerve-wracking. It's, you know, anxiety-inducing. I love Bill. You mentioned Bill Farmer. He often says, when we're at conventions and somebody says, I want to be a voice actor, what's your number one piece of advice? And he'll say, get rich parents. So I wish I had heard that before I started.
That's perfect. What is your favorite? You mentioned, you know, you do a lot of these designs. What's your favorite thing that you've gotten the opportunity to design?
Oh gosh.
You could be for Disney parks and just like overall.
Yeah, it's so hard to keep track, because I feel like there's always something that's, you know, each new project comes and it's exciting. I've really enjoyed As of late, I've gotten to design a lot of Disney Parks merch, so a lot of apparel. I remember I did a pair of ears for Mickey's, I think it was surrounding Mickey's 90th. They were doing an artist series of Mickey Mouse ears for the parks, and I got to do that, which is pretty cool. But probably the biggest highlight artistically has been I was commissioned to paint Mickey's official 95th anniversary portrait. And if you know anything about Mickey's official portraits, mine is only the 8th that's ever been commissioned in Mickey's 95 years. It was a tradition that was started kind of, I don't want to say lottery, but like there was a contest on the studio lot in the 50s to paint Mickey's portrait. And John Hench, legendary John Hench, won that first portrait, and he created this now iconic image of Mickey leaning on a bookcase in his office, which is very similar to Walt's. And then he went on to create the next 5 after that. Right, so that's 6, and then I forget what decade or what era it fell into, but then there was another artist out of Disney Animation named Paul Felix who got to do the 6th portrait, and then Mickey's 90th portrait was done by now legendary animator Mark Henn, and so mine is the 8th. And as a kid, you know, I do have. You talked about books earlier. I do have this book in my possession still. It's this Mickey Mouse anniversary book. It was for his 50th, I think. And in that book, it has all the portraits that were done up to that time. And I'd look at them all the time. And I was like, these are so cool. I hope I get to paint like this someday. And so as most gigs go, you get offered the job and you're like, that sounds great. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Oh my gosh, amazing. And so I get to work on it. But this particular project I started, and I don't think it really hit me how cool it was until I started putting paint on the canvas. And then all of a sudden I found myself getting so nervous because I realized like how much it meant to me and potentially could mean to a little kid similar to me. Like I was like, somebody's gonna be looking at this. Hopefully somebody will look at this someday and think, wow, that's beautiful. I wanna paint like that, just like I had done. And then the pressure was on. Then I was like, oh, I gotta like.
It's like your Super Bowl. Like that's like you get the nerves like leading into it, just like you might like a big game of some sort. That's
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it was a process, and the thing that happens when I've had the chance to talk a lot about the amazing opportunities I've experienced. Now it's I think next week, 2 weeks, I'm celebrating 17 years in this role, and I've had so many cool moments like this painting, and like you said, it's like your Super Bowl. But I often share in the story of how I get these opportunities is that, you know, it's about having goals. And when you reach those goals, it's important to realize that you then need to come up with new goals because, you know, you get to the Super Bowl and then what? Do you just retire? Or do you attempt to go to another Super Bowl? Or is it the World Series next? You know, like
you could hit like a depression after you do that if you don't have like a next thing to work toward.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting learning as a creative person to figure out like that journey and how it's like you need to celebrate these moments and be excited about them, but you can't rest on them too long because you got to find the next thing.
And I believe, if I'm right, you are the only other person besides Walt to actually have drawn and voiced Mickey, correct?
Yeah, as far as I know. My friend who actually we worked on a children's book together. His name is Ryan March. He he's been with the company for a really long time, really talented writer. He wrote this children's book that I illustrated, and he actually put that in my bio, and I've been amazed how it's like taken like I shouldn't say wildfire. That's too close to home. But it's kind of become this thing I've been known for now, which I love. But yeah, as far as I know, Jimmy McDonald didn't draw. He was a talented musician. And same with Wayne. I don't think he drew either. Well, actually, I know he didn't because Russi told me. Russi Taylor was Wayne Allwine's wife. So for anyone who doesn't know, Mickey and Minnie were married in real life, which is a great love story all on its own. But Russi one time said to me, now Wayne had the ukulele. He would like play the ukulele a lot, and you draw. So that's your thing. You're Mickey and you draw. Wayne was Mickey and he played the ukulele. And I was like, okay, I'll take that.
So was the official portrait, was that like the first official time you had drawn Mickey for the company? Or have you done more? Like was that the start of it? Because you've done a ton now. You have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of artwork. You mentioned merch, clothing line. So like you do a lot now. But
Yeah,
was
you
that
like the national parks thing that you
Yeah.
have behind you.
Yeah.
Which is
Oh,
so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So I actually started very soon after I got cast in this role. So
Okay.
we're talking 2009. I became one of the published Disney fine arts artists. So I've been painting Mickey since then, really, and then started the National Park poster series. I've done a lot of stuff for D23 over the years. So no, the Mickey portrait was not the start, but it definitely was a pinnacle and a highlight for sure.
Were you kind of just like, hey guys, by the way, I can also like draw and paint really well too? Like how does that start?
It is a great question because it's another thing that I love to share with especially younger artists is that it truly comes down to these opportunities. You know, they don't always find me, and I'm not necessarily always looking for them, but I'm a firm believer in the power of networking and just the power of letting people get to know who you are. And it was really important to me when I started, you know, to let people know how serious I was about Mickey and voicing him. But the more experiences I had, and I always say that I have a great vantage point of the company because even though my dream was to work in Disney animation or Imagineering, and I've gotten to work with both those parts of the company at this point, I've also gotten to work with consumer products and interactive media and theme parks and all kinds of stuff because I have this great vantage point where voicing Mickey for these projects serves all these different divisions of Disney. So with that came the understanding of how the company works and what opportunities there were. So for instance, like the ears that I designed, I was at a D23 event in Florida, and the head of the department, the merchandising department that was kicking that off, I think had mentioned that they were going to do an artist series on one of her panels. And so we're just in the back green room, and I went up and introduced myself, and I said, I also want to let you know I'm also an artist. I got my start in art, and I've been a professional artist and designer for X amount of years at that point. And I said, if there's ever a chance like this ear project, I would love to be a part of that. So I might have to credit that with kind of my foray into it, actually, because I remember her thinking, she said to me, like, really? I didn't know that. And so it was kind of my first foot in the door to let people know that I also did this other thing that could be fun to leverage. And I know people have really enjoyed being able to say, well, Bret is the voice, but like Bret created this artwork, but he's also the voice. And so there's a really fun story to tell there. And of course, Disney's all about storytelling. So
yeah, it's a good, like, you know, it's a good story for speaking up and using your voice, and networking, and the opportunities aren't going to present themselves unless you actually, you know, kind of go out and try to make them happen.
Yeah, and I think it's important for me to share that because I still am, but always have been really shy. Like I was a super shy kid, and I was the kid that would turn red when you'd call roll in the class. You know, like you have to say here, and I'd like beat red. I hated it, but I've had to learn to get out of that. And to your point, you have to like speak up for yourself and speak, you know, be your own advocate. And it's not easy all the time, but I hope that I'm an example of it can be so much better if you are. You know, there's a lot more fun to be had if you are your own advocate and speak up for yourself.
That's awesome.
For sure. Going back to kind of the voiceover. So when you're doing a recording session, like what does that look like? Like how much of the story, like do you get to see the animation beforehand? Do you have an idea of what's happening, or is it kind of just like, here's the script, here's what we're looking for?
Yeah, no, so that we don't see the animation.
Okay.
Animation voiceover comes before the animation. So like we'll just reference Mickey Mouse Clubhouse because that's what we're working on. We'll get the script when the session is booked, so we have time to read it and know what the story is and see our lines, and more importantly, see our lines against the other characters and how it fits into the story so you get the context. And then we'll go in and like an episode usually takes between 2 and 3 hours. That's usually including the music that we have attached to that episode, a particular episode. So we get the script ahead of time and we'll go in and we record independently. So, you know, a lot of times you see back in the day, they did what was called ensemble, and then all the characters would be with each other and they'd be riffing off of one another. It's this fun environment. We don't do that, at least on these shows and projects, which is unfortunate but understandable. It's so much easier to edit nowadays with digital recording, and so you can just grab and pick and pull, and thankfully I know how Bill's going to read a line. I know how Caitlin's going to read a mini line, and so I can pretty much imagine. But in an instance where maybe the director got something that even he was surprised by, he'll say, "Oh, hold on, I'm gonna play you Bill's line to lead you in, so like just listen. This is so great, and it's gonna inform you," which is always helpful. And then when it comes to all the other stuff, unless it's like a big musical number that requires some type of rehearsal ahead of time, oftentimes for smaller projects, I don't even see the script. Like I'll go into, let's say, record a talking Home Depot Mickey at Christmas time, right? Like, I'll know that it's a Christmas Home Depot project, and so I can assume that we're going to be saying Merry Christmas a lot. But a lot of times you don't see that stuff till you get in. So, which is fun in its own way, because a cold read kind of, at least for me, I'm sure every actor is different. A cold read for me is kind of exciting because I get to figure it out on the spot, and it's a little bit more intuitive, and you rely on intuition versus overthinking it or overcomplicating it or over rehearsing. So, there's room for both camps.
Yeah, when you're doing the different projects, because you have voice again over TV shows in the theme parks, Home Depot characters and things. So,
Kingdom Hearts.
That's my Super Bowl.
Yeah. Like how do you balance kind of the consistency of the voice with kind of like the nuances of the specific project? Because Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, that's geared more towards younger children, so there's probably a different tone you're going for versus something if you're singing at the parks or something like that.
Yeah, it's a great question because especially in the role that I find myself in, where I am doing a breadth of projects like that, there is definite dynamic shifts. Like, if you're doing a video game where Mickey is battling these like dark hooded evil creatures, that's a different Mickey than, hey, let's look for a mouse Cthulhu, right? And it's been, I've learned a lot over the years from each of those projects, actually, because you start, when I started, I was doing a lot of theme park stuff or Disney on Ice shows, and I actually just recently rewatched an interview with Wayne, and he described those moments as like being a rock star. Mickey, in that context at the park, in front of the castle, Mickey is a performer. He is shouting out to the crowd. The energy is high. You got to deliver on that. You can't come out and be like,
Hi, everybody. Hope you enjoy the fireworks. We worked really hard. Magic.
You'd be like, hi, everybody. So it's a shift. And then, to your point, you're talking to preschoolers on Disney Junior, and you're getting intimate and like looking at the camera, and that's a different thing. I feel like I've been reflecting on this a lot lately, that over the years, I haven't really had the opportunities I would have liked to voice Mickey in a little bit more in-depth performance opportunities, because I think Mickey definitely has a huge range. And while I'm grateful to have worked on the projects I do, I would love to be able to work on some kind of feature project or something where we explored Mickey's different tonalities and emotions and his depth, because unfortunately, because of the way the industry is, it's like I've heard some people labeling me lately as like the Disney Junior Mickey, and that's great. I no shame in that, right? Like, I am voicing Mickey on a TV show that children are growing up with and like discovering Mickey, and that's what an honor that is. But I'd like to believe I have the ability to bring you a different Mickey as well if the opportunity presented itself. So it's interesting to like how the sausage is made, essentially, with all the the nuances of all the different projects and stuff, and how we get put into buckets in terms of performance. But for whatever reason with Mickey, I think people oftentimes make the mistake of like, oh, he's just this, or he's just that. He's just this parade character, or like he could never do this. And it's like, well, he could. And a lot of times there are parts of the company that put up bumpers or guidelines, and with the best of intentions, but I think I've experienced over almost 2 decades now where sometimes that hinders the character. It kind of limits him in a way that is unfair. And not to say that I don't believe Mickey needs to change. I don't think we need to make Mickey cool or hip or anything, but he has the room. He has the wiggle room, So I would personally love to be able to explore that a little bit more.
I think we should call up Kevin Lima and get like a Goofy movie kind of situation
Oh my God.
going on.
I have an idea, and I've been meaning to reach out to Kevin actually, because Kevin and I hit it off on a cruise not too long ago. I love him and his wife; they're amazing people. But Kevin is a guy that I deeply respect. He has such a big heart, and I think that is so important and critical in storytelling, and it shows in a Disney movie for sure, or a Goofy movie. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right though. I mean, because kind of thinking about it as you're talking, it's like Mickey he's kind of everywhere, but they are also very protective of him. He's never really like the focus of a story. I mean, we just got an attraction centered around Mickey, just a few years ago, and it's Mickey's been around for almost 100 years now. So it's like, it would be interesting to see a more feature length version. Yeah, interesting story with Mickey.
And we've explored, like we've done over the past couple of years, we've done some really great Christmas related specials. Mickey and the Very Many Merry Christmases, I think is what it was called. I always mess up this title, but essentially like a Groundhog's Day of Christmas mornings.
Okay.
That came out last year, and while still geared towards maybe a slightly younger audience, it did give a chance for the characters to kind of just have some fun, to stretch their legs a little bit. And to your point, the Paul Ruda shorts, which inspired Runaway Railway, which I didn't work on. Chris Diamantopoulos was the actor they chose for those. That's a totally different Mickey. It's almost like a Mickey multiverse in a way, right? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily the Mickey I picture. Like, it's a different Mickey, and that's okay. There's room for that, right? Like, there's room for that storytelling. But when it comes to like Mickey's core, like the Mickey that the classic Mickey that we see, that we want to hug, I think it's like I've found myself understanding that character so much more after all this time. And like all of us, there's no way you're happy-go-lucky all the time. Like there's a silly example of it is just like, on an episode, maybe Pluto knocks over his bowl of water, and I want to read the line that's like, the line might say like, "Oh gosh, Pluto, watch out," and I want to be like,
Oh gosh, Pluto, watch out! Come on, man.
and they're like, "Oh no, that's we don't want to be mean to Pluto. Like we gotta."
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Pluto, watch out!
And in those moments, I kind of just go, like, there's room for it. There's room for it because that's real, like it doesn't have to be so bubbly all the time. And I understand in the context of a preschool show, maybe you don't want to be too jarring for children, but sometimes I do feel like it shortchanges the character a bit.
I interestingly enough, like I feel like I get that, because I feel like sometimes, as a teacher, like sometimes we are held to a standard where it's like, oh, you can't show that, that like frustration so much, but it's like they also do need to come to recognize that, yeah, people get upset and they have emotions, and sometimes maybe they don't react in the best way, and then that gives another storytelling opportunity of saying, hey, like maybe he apologizes to Pluto and says, hey, I'm really sorry about my tone, Pluto, and you have like an interesting like interaction.
There's a lesson there you can still teach.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, you would absolutely get it. As a teacher, you're on a stage. You're being, the expectation is on you to present your best foot forward all the time, and I think.
And I do a bad job.
No, I find that hard to believe. But no, I don't think that's too unsimilar to what I was just talking about. Yeah.
So what is your favorite characteristic of Mickey Mouse? Like his favorite, thing that you admire, and maybe the thing kind of like what we were just talking about that you would love to portray, like an emotion maybe, or a feeling, or a situation you'd love to see Mickey in that you haven't been able to portray?
Yeah, I mean, I love every aspect of Mickey's personality. I love his optimistic wit. I love his charm. I love that he's loyal. But then he's like equal parts just like everyday guy that everyone can relate to. and I don't know if this is a personality trait as much as of it is like a characteristic, but I think the magic that Mickey has come to represent means the most to me. Like I think of Phantasmic, the show at the parks, and just like when you see Sorcerer Mickey, that image of Mickey in the red robes and the blue hat just evokes this sense of, it makes you believe. It makes you believe that dreams can come true, that magic is real, and that, anything is possible. And I love that about Mickey. I think he is such a symbol of, well, magic. I said it already, but I mean that's what he is, and I love that, and I find myself, getting emotional when I watch Phantasmic, and I think about that. And then in terms of what I would love to explore with this character, I think kind of going back to just like we were talking about the everyday reality of emotional wave, right? Like I would love to see. I don't want to give too much away about an idea I have, but I would love to see Mickey explore the question that you just asked me, because I get asked this all the time. Like, what does Mickey represent to you? What does Mickey represent to the world? And I think it would be so cool to see Mickey grapple with that question. Has anyone asked Mickey what's it feel like to represent magic and wonder and happiness to an entire planet?
We just all start writing letters to Disney. Like, we need this on
Yeah.
Disney Plus. Make this happen.
Well, let me finish writing it first.
All right, you send us an email after.
Yeah, okay. I'll let you know when it's go time, guys.
Have you, is it still a surreal experience for you to hear your voice like in the parks or on these TV shows, or like have you kind of gotten used to it at this point at all?
It's still surreal when I stop and think about it. It's surreal. And very early on, I remember being a little disappointed because I remember going to Disneyland to see the first parade that I had done. And Mickey's rolling down the main street and he's talking, and I kind of went like, oh, it's not Mickey anymore, it's me. Like I hear me, like I'm not getting to watch, like I was like, will I ever get to watch Mickey again? And now, I forget when I had this realization, but not too long ago, I was watching, I think it was Paint the Night maybe, and Mickey came down and I was just there, vibing with everyone, like it's so cool, or Phantasmic. And it's not until I stop and think, oh hey, that's you were a part of that. That's when I go, oh, that's so weird. Like that's when I get weepy and I like think about little 7-year-old me. But I've been able to kind of go back to this place of enjoying Mickey for being Mickey, and almost like it's like this naive switch I can turn on to be like, just enjoy, forget about the hardships of that recording session or how you were feeling that day or how your voice was behaving. Like just enjoy that it's you're here celebrating with Mickey. So, but it's a weird thing. It's so weird because this character has always been so important to me. It almost just doesn't feel real to think. I'm like, am I going to wake up and realize I've been in a coma for 20 years and like this is some weird hallucination I've had?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be worse, but
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
that's true.
I was gonna say, I'm glad you're able to enjoy it because I was wondering if like, does your relationship with kind of like the parks and stuff change knowing, hey, that's me? So that's good that you can kind of at least step back and to a certain extent enjoy it.
yeah, I mean, I think the same thing could be said of any career or job or opportunity that you're a fan of that then you get to be a part of. There is like a little bit of a, when it no longer is a dream or a fantasy and it becomes reality, there is a shift that takes place. And I think it's important to be able to recognize the things that drew you to it in the first place and maintain those things, because you could easily get just bogged down in the entertainment side of it all, and then not, once you've peeked backstage, the show isn't the same anymore, right? Like once you've seen behind the curtain and you see that the wizard is just there talking into a microphone, and he's not this, all-powerful Great Oz, that's a little disappointing. But I think if you're able to maintain the ability to then step out behind that curtain and go and enjoy the show, you're going to be so much happier. And it's about, personal investment, I think, and when I think in creative fields especially, it's harder because so much of, as an artist, whether it's 2D art or acting or whatever your art form is, it's inherent that you put yourself into it, and so it becomes really challenging then to remove yourself and your feelings when things, reveal the uglier sides of themselves, and that's dramatic, but yeah, it's definitely a game of mitigating, your investment so that you can still enjoy it as much as you want to.
So when you, like, down the road, decades down the road or whatever, when you kind of look back on this chapter of your life, like, what do you think will mean the most to you? Like, are you able to kind of reflect on that now, or do you think you may not really kind of fully be able to understand that till down the road?
No, I think I can, in the sense of, when I started, I think this whole experience, as it were, was more about like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I can't believe I'm getting to do this, and I hope I get to do that, and I hope I get to do this. And now it's become more, I'm able to step back and realize that, well, I've been thinking a lot about legacy the past couple years of my life. It's just kind of been this theme, unintentional theme, and Mickey plays a part in that. But it's also some of the artwork I've taken on, or I do a lot of restorations, and I'm working on another particularly personal project that's all about legacy. And it's interesting when you're looking at other people's legacies or other characters' legacy. It makes you reflect on your own. And, I definitely look back with pride. I'm happy to have been a part of the projects I have been a part of, especially now I'm been able to meet people who were really like little when 17 years means that there are people with driver's licenses now who grew up watching my shows. And I've had the chance to meet a few of them, and they, express how cool it was or how much they loved it. But then, of course, I get a lot more feedback from parents who will say, "Oh, my kids grew up listening to this," or "We loved going to the park and watched this parade," or whatever. And you realize that you're a part of something that's so much bigger, and it's so special. To bring people joy is such a unique privilege, and I feel like. I don't know how to express what I'm feeling. Actually, there's a huge responsibility with it, but I can't think of anything more rewarding to know that you're playing a part in making people smile or making people happy, or maybe taking them out of a darker time and encouraging them. So, going back to my point about legacy, I have found myself thinking a lot about the people who have inspired me to get to this point, and I hope that when I'm sharing my story, it's less about me, actually, and it's more about resonating with somebody's personal experience so that they can derive some kind of inspiration to maybe chase their dreams or take a chance or pursue something that they haven't before. Because I think that's what I'm reflecting and taking away. To finally answer your question.
No,
it's very long-winded. I apologize.
No, it was great. It's good insight. I mean, it follows, kind of like what you're saying of, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to take risks. Hey, if you get an email that says you want to be the voice of Mickey Mouse, like, take it seriously. It might actually, it might turn into something. So
you never know. Yeah. And I think, again, I just want to reiterate that I was a very shy kid. I didn't I was in Boy Scouts, I was in theater, I did all that stuff, but it never came naturally to me in terms of, I always had this voice in my head that was like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. You should not, somebody might judge you. You might embarrass yourself. Through this journey of becoming a voice actor, voicing a character as, iconic as Mickey, I've learned so much to be able to break out of that. But I'd be lying if I said I was any different than the 7-year-old who went to audition for a Christmas, chorus thing at church. And when I heard the demo reel of what the kids were singing, I was like, nope, I'm out. I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I can't do this. I can't sing like that. Ironically, I said, I can't sing that high. I think I should go audition now. But, it's like, I'm still that I'm still that kid who's really nervous and really scared and really susceptible to, having my feelings hurt or feeling insecure. And so I want people to know that I want to normalize that, first of all. And I want to be able to share that in a way that's encouraging to people. And I'm just very fortunate that I have a vehicle like Mickey Mouse to kind of help me share that message, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great message and a great story. I want to ask you, kind of speaking of storytelling a little bit, switching gears a little bit from Mickey, you are restoring a steam locomotive and you're building a ranch. You have this great YouTube series you started. It's called Up North. And there's the connection. The second episode's out about the train.
Yeah.
And it's the train you rode as a kid in the summer that you're now restoring. So, I guess maybe tell us a little bit more about that. And then
Sure.
is like storytelling, kind of like these kind of productions, is this something you're looking to move more into? Because the series has been like wonderfully done so far.
Oh, well, thank you. First of all, thank you for watching. Thanks for the nice plug for Up North. I wasn't expecting that. I feel like I'm turning red now. See, I told you.
Bret, is Bret here today?
Yeah, I get it. No. So let me see. Where did you start with that? Yes, Up North, a new YouTube series that my husband Bo and I have started to just kind of, as a vehicle of sharing our story. We've realized that we've been embarking on some things that are just like kind of out of the ordinary or a little bit more challenging than people realize. And what's happened over the years is when we say like, oh yeah, we bought some property and we're building our railroad, people are like, what? And then you try to explain it, or you like quickly pull up your phone and show pictures. You're like, well, no, like, see, it's like this train, and then like, what size is it? What? And so I kind of came to the conclusion, I was like, I should just start sharing this story in a way that like makes sense to people. So yes, to answer your first question, I have been for the past 5 years restoring and preserving a steam locomotive that was originally built in 1909, but then converted to a steam locomotive in 1965 by a gentleman named Tommy Thompson. And he built this train without having anywhere to run it, but he lived in this town called Anacortes, Washington, which is up in the Puget Sound. And he proposed that they could have a railway that took people from the ferry terminal, because the Washington State ferries are up there. That's one of the big ports of the San Juan Islands. And he wanted it to pick people up there and then bring them into the downtown area. He was really inspired by British railways, and there's one particular British railway that's like a miniature in stature, and I know he's a big fan of. So he started building this train without anywhere to run it and was just proposing this idea. Definitely a dreamer. But he's also an amazing artist. Everything he did was just beautiful. Like, he was very design minded, and because when I got the train, I was also gifted a lot of his journals and notebooks. I've been able to go through his drawings and see just how much thought and care he put into everything he was building and designing. So he's an artist as well. And then he was a doer, because he eventually, through or after decades of proposing this idea, and just like it kind of falling, like he would get some support, but then it would kind of fall off. And then he like kept trying to make some ground with this idea. He eventually got what was this small little tourist railway that ran through the downtown area. I grew up vacationing there every summer, thanks to a family home in the area. And it was the highlight of my summer. Like, to me, he was on the same level as Walt Disney. He was this guy who had created this amazing thing. I mean, I was a train fan just as long as I've been a Mickey fan, thanks to my dad, who is a model railroader. So I just grew up with trains. They were just, I couldn't tell you where that fascination comes from.
I mean, Walt was big into trains though too. Like, it's another connection there too.
Yeah.
He was, and oddly enough, I did not know that until much later. Like, I think I was probably 14, 15, when I finally, maybe a little bit younger than that, I discovered the Carrollwood Historical Society, which is a group that is associated with Walt's Barn here in Griffith Park. But it was this group that was, basically celebrating Walt's train history. And he had a train in his backyard, and there's a reason why Disneyland and Magic Kingdom are circled by trains, and the story of Mickey popping out of his head onto a drawing pad on a train trip from New York to Hollywood. Like, trains represented a lot for Walt. And so I remember I discovered that a little bit later in my childhood, and I was like, wait, what? Like, Mickey, Disneyland, and trains? Like, can this guy get any cooler? But when it comes to Tommy Thompson, I think I recognized a lot of those same things that I was attracted to in someone's creative ambition with what Tommy had created. And so I don't want to give too much away. Please watch the episode because I can talk too long about this. But eventually, I have come into possession of the train via a very generous gift from the family who bestowed it upon me with the intent of preserving and restoring it. Me and my family are doing that. And it's become a true passion project for me that's, out in left field in terms of Disney and Mickey. It's its own thing. But yeah, to your point, I've become, in doing this and in the preservation work I'm doing, I've become fascinated with his story. And then I've actually rediscovered, or I don't even want to say rediscovered or discovered, I've taken the leap to try my hand at storytelling, which is something I've always been interested in, but I never really felt like I necessarily had the permission to be the one in the driver's seat doing it. I thought my role is best serving behind the microphone or, in front of the camera, doing the role that other people have determined. But in creating these episodes for Up North, I've realized that I love this. I love telling stories. I love putting the production together. I love the filming and the editing and the mixing. So I've had a lot of fun with it.
So are you doing all of that yourself then for these?
I don't know what the right answer is. So should I say there's an entire team behind me, or should I say, no, it's me? Because it is me. Yeah.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's very well done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thanks. I've actually heard from a lot of my professional colleagues, and they're like, who's producing this for you? And I'm like, me? Who's editing that? Like, me? Like, I'm like, wow. Again, it's that little kid thing where I'm like, me, but why are you asking? Are you about to tell me that it's terrible or that you like it?
Yeah.
No, but I think it's maybe a disbelief that somebody could be that good at so many different things. Like, I would take it as a massive compliment.
Okay, well, I will try to do that from now on. Yeah. No, it's just, I always say creatively I'm a bit crazy. Like, I've always been somebody my curiosity is what drives me to continue learning and pursuing new things. I grew up being fascinated by trains, but back in 2017, I got a job at Knott's Berry Farm, a theme park here in Southern California, and I was working on their steam locomotives because I wanted to learn how to work on real trains. I just kind of took a chance doing that. I've, over the years, taught myself woodworking, and I've restored a 115-year-old house and a truck, a 1938 pickup truck, and it's all stems from just being curious. Like, I'm fascinated with how things work. I'm fascinated by history and how things came to be, and that curiosity just continues to drive me to explore new things. So
I am fascinated by you as an individual. Do you read all like nonfiction? Do you read fiction? Like, you're good at storytelling, but there's a lot of storytelling in nonfiction as well. Like,
yeah. Are
you getting a lot of what you're doing from YouTube and just learning it that way? Like, how are you acquiring this information?
I mean, I think honestly, it's a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. I learn best from hands-on opportunities and observation. I'm very, like, I won't say I have a photographic memory, but like, wherever I'm at, I'm just like constantly scanning and collecting information about, like, oh, look how they built that, or look at the colors that were used in this, or, oh, that's fascinating, that machine does this. And so that's been very helpful. Yeah, I mean, kind of just absorb it from wherever I can, whether it's YouTube or, old 1900s manuals. I'm trying to think what else. Like, I actually think I'm drawn more to reading nonfiction. I was really into sci-fi nonfiction when I was younger. Star Wars novels were my thing. Yeah, just kind of a little bit of everything. But then also, I think the biggest asset is people. Like, I love sharing my story and offering advice or help because I love when I'm able to make that connection with people who do the same. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. I think I've had some experience where I've met a lot of gatekeepers who maybe do something and they know they do it well, and you don't necessarily get a warmth of giving from them. You know, like it's almost like they want to be known for something and they're really proud of it, and as they should be, but maybe they're not giving off at least the energy that I need to know that it's okay to like ask questions. And so I never want to be that person. I want to be someone who's just like forthcoming. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, I've always been interested in STEAM, but I know nothing about it. I would love to volunteer. I'm like, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's figure out a way. Like that is one of the ultimate goals. I don't have the answers to it yet, but you know, now being in possession of this amazing STEAM equipment, I think there's opportunities for some kind of industrial arts workshops or helping educate people into this antique machinery. Same with art, you know, like I would love to teach painting classes and drawing classes and just kind of help foster curiosity, I guess.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that is. Get you out here. We want to do like a quick lightning round. We like to ask kind of our guests like what their like Disney favorites are here. So, what's your favorite park?
Disneyland. Oh, I don't like these questions. Disneyland.
Disneyland.
Or Epcot. I'm an 80s baby, so Epcot,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Favorite character?
Mickey Mouse. That's
Besides Mickey.
Yeah, you can't pick him.
Mickey?
Think back to your childhood watching those movies. What would you say?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm like. Probably. Okay, well, if we're talking like movies, Aladdin. I was obsessed with Aladdin. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Favorite attraction?
Big Thunder Mountain.
Okay.
Which is only a recent realization on my part, I have to embarrassingly admit, because I would always say Haunted Mansion or Pirates, which I love because they're quintessential Disney rides. But then I would also say the Railroad because that just seemed like an obvious. But then I realized the other day, I was like, but my real favorite is Big Thunder Mountain. Like that's the one I have to go on, and I could go on over and over and over again and wouldn't get sick of it. It also plays to all the aesthetics that I love and emulate in my life. So
that's perfectly fine, because Angela for the longest time was like, I don't like Tower of Terror. She's like, I don't get that ride. And then we rode it and she's like, this is my favorite ride of all time. Why did I ever say anything bad about it? So
I talked so much crap about that ride on this podcast, and then later I wrote it. I'm like, what was I talking about? I love this ride.
So the criticism of it was prior to you riding it, or had you?
No, I had ridden it. It had
But
been.
we would like skip it. I'd be like, you want to ride Tower of Terror? She's like, nah, it's not that good. We don't have to ride it this time. And then we finally like did it again, and she's like, this is great. Now we have to ride it every time. She's like, what was I thinking?
I think that's just a case for demonstrating personal growth, and we should encourage that.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm not making this a lightning round because I keep elaborating.
No, you're good.
No, I love it. What's your favorite park snack?
Mickey pretzel.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Or at Christmas time, sometimes Disneyland does peppermint patties, which are amazing.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
That's on my tip.
You mentioned Star Wars, reading Star Wars books. If there was another Disney property you could work on, like besides Mickey, what would it be? Would it be Star Wars?
It'd be Star Wars, yeah.
Okay.
Who's your favorite character? Do you have to say Ahsoka because you
No, I don't have to say Ahsoka because I didn't know who Ahsoka was before meeting Ashley Eckstein. So, and she knows that. So sorry, Ashley. I was like, so who is this? Ahsoka what? Darth Vader is actually my favorite Star Wars character.
Okay.
That is a good one. Have you watched the Clone Wars?
I have not seen all of the Clone Wars, but I have watched them because after becoming friends with Ashley, I thought I need to watch this. It's so embarrassing. The first time I met Ashley, we worked on this project for D23, and then afterwards we went to dinner, and we sat down and just having like get to know you conversation, and I was like, so how long you been playing this character? And at that point, like Clone Wars was over, and it had been 10 years or so of it. And she's like, 10 years. She was very polite about it. I was like, oh. Okay, wow, good for you. So this is like it's going somewhere. Like, it's popular? Cool.
Oh, that's so funny.
Did not know.
I really like Anakin in that series. I think it's interesting because you get more of that backstory of kind of how he gets the way he is, and it makes him, I don't know, I feel so bad for him kind of in a way, because I'm like, yes, you make your choices, right? Like he didn't have to go full dark side, but also there's a lot of times where he's told not to do something, but he does it and it works. And then it's like, do they not see his genius? Do they not appreciate him? So
I think that's why Darth Vader is my favorite. He's misunderstood. It's like tragic, right? It's because and I think I love that it's like, in deep down, as is revealed in the finale of Return of the Jedi, like he's still his good self, right? But misunderstood. And then, Matt Lanter, come on.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, we got to get you in as like a stormtrooper or something. They always have like
Yes.
people in there as like Kim as the
Yeah.
stormtroopers or like do a voice.
You know what? You should. You should get.
Got to get you in there. We got to start a couple petitions.
John Favreau. You got to get. You got to get in his inbox and say, you know what? I have this extra special talent.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
I mean, the stormtrooper hat will fit me so well because I have no hair. So it's like, I know you can be too short for a stormtrooper, but you can never be too bald for a stormtrooper. So
Yeah, we have 2 petitions we have to start. Get you in a Star Wars movie, and then get the Mickey movie created.
yeah, let's do it.
So we got to start it. So,
I'm signature number 1.
well, Bret, really appreciate it. Want to thank you again for coming in. For all of our listeners, if they want to follow you, learn more about what you're doing, what's kind of the best place, social media, website?
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm Instagram is where I post most of my stuff. So if you're interested in me and the Mickey stuff, it's at Bret Iwan, just my name. And then if you're interested in up north and the stuff we're doing with our ranch, it's at Terbeau Ranch, which is a weird spelling, but it's Terbeau. It's my name backwards and then my husband's name, Beau. So Terbeau Ranch.
Nice,
All
perfect.
kinds of fun stuff there.
All right, and we'll put links to all that stuff too in the descriptions if anybody's interested. So, but Bret, thank you again. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, guys. This is so much fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, I want to thank Bret again. It was an incredible interview. Like you mentioned at the top of the show, I feel like it's like, what can't this guy do?
I found that interview to be so inspirational. And again, I swear I say this every 10 episodes, but as a teacher, I felt like I took so much away from that interview in terms of, getting yourself out of your comfort zone, giving back to people and being willing to teach somebody how to do something, even though you don't have to be a gatekeeper. That was something that I kind of took away also from that interview, is just his willingness to help other people and share his knowledge of whatever on whatever topic.
There was
it
a
is.
ton of great stuff in there. We'd love to hear from the listeners. Let us know, what was your favorite part. Let us know in the comments. Tag a friend, share it.
Yes.
I think this was a great interview. So we'd love to hear, what was your favorite part of all of it. And want to thank Bret again. That wraps up the show for this week. Next week is episode 400. Very excited for that. Very excited to see who wins the Best of the Parks bracket. So make sure you're subscribed. Tune in for that. But that wraps up the show for this week. Want to thank everybody again for listening. If you've not done so, please leave us a rating or a review. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for lending us your ears.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you here next Monday.
Bye-bye.